Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Echo45 Advisors Market and Economic Update. In this week's video, we'll discuss the broad topic of taxes and how they affect the stock market. The importance of taxes and tax planning cannot be overstated. Taxes affect all aspects of our financial lives, including how much of our paychecks we take home, how much we benefit from capital gains and dividends, which retirement accounts are the most beneficial, estate planning considerations, and much more. Taxes are also very politically charged, making it difficult for many investors to stay objective. However, when it comes to the stock market, history shows that markets have performed well across a variety of tax regimes. In the next few minutes, we'll walk through the few key facts that can help investors maintain perspective on this important topic. First, this chart shows the level of individual income tax rates over the past century. What immediately jumps off the page is that the highest tax rates were by far during the middle of the 20th century. During the 1950s and early 1960s, the top marginal rate was a staggering 91%. A series of tax cuts, first by Presidents Kennedy and Johnson, then later by President Reagan, reduced these rates closer to what we're more familiar with today. More recently, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, signed by President Trump, lowered the top rate to 37%. Of course, there have been a number of other changes over that time to the number of tax brackets, deductions, capital gains, and dividend rates, and much more. What's important to keep in mind here is that the stock market performed well throughout the past century across these varying tax regimes. The 1950s and 1960s, for example, were generally strong years for the stock market and the economy despite such high rates. In more recent years, changes to rates have been more modest. It's important not to overreact to possible changes in the tax policy when it comes to our investment plans. Second, this chart shows the level of corporate tax rates across large developed countries. The 2017 tax cuts lowered the U.S. corporate tax rate from 35%, the highest in the world, to 21%, around the middle of the pack. Of course, the U.S. statutory corporate tax rate is different from the effective tax rates that corporations actually pay. This is due to the labyrinth of tax breaks and deductions corporations can take advantage of. This is naturally a politically charged topic. On one hand, corporations are maximizing their tax efficiency, which is ultimately good for employees, shareholders, and the economy. On the other hand, it's seen as though large corporations are not paying their fair share. This is one motivation for the 15% corporate alternative minimum tax. What matters for overall market performance is the fact that the corporate tax rate has been at this level or higher since 1940, and yet markets have performed very well over this period. This is more evidence not to overreact when it comes to our portfolios, even if these rates do impact specific businesses. Finally, it's difficult to discuss taxes without also looking at the government debt. Ultimately, deficits can only be solved by reducing spending or raising additional revenues. Washington has a poor track record of cutting costs, especially when it comes to non-discretionary spending, such as Social Security and Medicare. Thus, some investors may worry that taxes could rise in the future. At the moment, it's unclear whether the 2017 tax cut provisions will live past 2025, for example. That's why it's important for all investors to work with a trusted financial advisor to understand their tax situations today. At the same time, it's critical to not overreact when it comes to our portfolios, since taxes have not been the primary driver of the business cycles or markets over the past century. We've only scratched the surface on this complex but important topic. If you would like to discuss any of this in more detail, please don't hesitate to reach out. We look forward to speaking with you.